الساعة دلوقتي بالظبط 9:30 عندنا في كالجري. مش عارفة في تورونتو يبقى 11:30، ومعرفش في فانكوفر تبقى معرفش اعمل ماث بقى. طيب دلوقتي ميعاد الانترفيو اللي عملناه مع السيد راجا خوري رئيس المؤسسة الكندية العربية. تعالوا نعمل كده الأول، مع ان هو مش ارت قوي، ولكن تعالوا نبدأ السيجمنت.
You're now listening to The Arabic Arts with Noha Mohamed on Calgary Arabia.
راجا خوري هو رئيس المؤسسة الكندية العربية، وشارك في تأسيسها في عام 2011. راجا خوري مفوض من لجنة حقوق الإنسان في أونتاريو، وعضو لجنة Human Rights Watch كندا. حتى عام 2013 كان راجا رئيس في مركز المعرفة التي أنشئت في عام 1995 المتخصصة في التطوير التنظيمي وبناء القدرات في القطاع غير الربحي أو non-profit sector. خدم راجا سابقا في العديد من الهيئات الحكومية والمجتمع المدني، ولأن في أسامي كتير بالإنجليش قررت أن هقول الحتة دي بالإنجليش. الهيئات هي Ontario's Hate Crimes Community Working Group، وكان في Minister of the Education's Equity and Inclusive Education Strategy Roundtable، و Pride Toronto Community Advisory Panel، و the Couching Institute on Public Affairs، and as Advocacy Co-Chair of Human Rights Watch Canada زي ما قلت. In 2007, Raja co-founded the Canadian Arab/Jewish Leadership Dialogue Group, which he co-chaired for 4 years. He also served as president of the Canadian Arab Federation in the period following the events of 9/11. تشرفت ان انا اتكلمت معاه. الانترفيو بالانجلش. يحب طبعا اسمع ارائكم وتعليقاتكم. لو سمحتوا ابعتولي على noha@redfm.ca او على الفيسبوك بتاعنا على Calgary Arabia. تعالوا نسمع راجا قال ايه معانا في البرنامج. Can you please tell our listeners about the Canadian Arab Institute and what it does and how they can benefit from programs for professional development?
The Canadian Arab Institute was founded 4 years ago and became operational actually 3 years ago with a three-pronged objective. One is to give a voice to the community at the policy level, at the mostly the federal policy level, two at the cultural level, and thirdly at the civic level. Our community, we live in a pluralistic democracy that not only welcomes but requires that all voices participate in the decision making in the country and contributing to which direction we go, what things we do, how we treat our citizens, and so on. And our community has been late coming to joining its voice to the other Canadian voices in determining and having and contributing to the decision making process as well as to the policy making process and how we live our lives. So that's what we do. We do policy recommendations that are based on research as opposed to opinion. We engage in all kinds of cultural activities and educational activities, ranging from museum exhibits to musical concerts to lectures and conferences that speak to the Canadian public. And we engage the community as much as possible in the political process, in the democratic process, and in the civic life of the country. And the way we do that is by focusing on youth. The reason we focus on youth is because we want to build leadership in the community.
Yeah.
And youth are best positions to become the leaders of tomorrow. So to engage youth, we offer them programs that help them in their careers, help them in their professional lives, And these range from mentorships, professional development programs, leadership development, civic engagement, scholarships, and so on, so that they themselves can benefit and in the process become civically engaged and are better able to become leaders in the community.
Okay. So how do you think the Canadian Arab can use their culture or their cultural uniqueness to contribute to the community, not just the Arab community, I mean the Canadian society in general?
Well, we already do. We already do at so many levels, but not collectively. We do so as individuals. We have a lot of talent in this country at the cultural level. And at the political level, at the professional level. Our problem as a community has been that we are very low-key as a community. There are many successful Canadian Arabs, but the community does not benefit from their profile. They're not seen as Canadian Arabs. They're not. They do not wear that identity on their forehead. For many reasons, for primarily, to avoid the stereotypes and the stigma that comes, with being Arab or Muslim. So one of the things we have been doing is trying to give a high profile to individuals, successful individuals in the community, people who are contributing to society in so many ways as Canadian Arabs, so that they serve as role models for other Canadian Arabs, but also to showcase our contributions to society. So, clearly, this film festival yesterday and today and the rest of the weekend is a showcase for Canadian Arab culture, for Canadian Arab talent, and that's an example of the things that we can do. Last year we hosted a concert in Toronto featuring an array of Canadian Arab musicians and performers, from opera singers to jazz players, to classical Arabic music players, to fusion music performers. So it was a beautiful celebration of not only Arab culture but of Canadian Arab culture and Canadian Arab contributions to the arts in this country. Yeah.
Okay, so in your opinion, what do we need to work on as Arabs in order to achieve our full potential, given all the talent we have?
Well, we need to get more engaged, and by that I mean really being active in society at large, in volunteering with local community organizations. In sitting on boards of agencies and commissions and the like, where we can gain a lot of experience, but we can also contribute to the work of governmental or non-profit agencies. And these are the agencies that really control much of how society lives its lives, from electricity board of some sort to community youth engagement, to human rights commissions, to labor relations, and so on and so forth. And we have people in the community who are active in all of these fields, but may not be participating at the level where the decisions get made. And these kinds of opportunities or these kinds of positions are both beneficial to the individual, because that individual is able to have a say in decisions that are being made, but also beneficial to society, because society needs people to use their expertise in these kinds of bodies that regulate, that govern, and that oversee various parts of.
Okay, as well. Who do you think controls how Arabs are seen in Canada, And how do you think we can, as Arabs, contribute to how our image is conveyed and like shape it the way we want it to be, instead of having to hide the fact that we're Arab, so we wouldn't be stereotyped? And is it just an Arab problem, or is it just in general? It doesn't have to be about Arabs specifically.
Well, I mean, a community's image is a product of many factors. Certainly, the media, what's in the news, plays a large factor. Also, what's in popular culture, what's on movies. What's in the movies, what's on TV, what's in the music. And certainly, you know, what people learn about in school and so on. Our community, or the Arab culture, if you want, is non-existent in school curriculum. So people don't learn anything about us through formal text. They learn about us through media and through popular culture. In the world of cinema, you know, Hollywood has been notorious in stereotyping Arabs in movies, you know, from the bumbling idiot to the oil-rich sheikh to the terrorist to the salacious man. All of these things have been present for decades, and ever since Hollywood actually was created. So there's that image that comes from those kinds of stereotypes, and then of course there's world news, and that's really the biggest contributor to how stereotypes or an image of a certain community or culture are formed, because people read the headlines, and unfortunately we are often in the headlines in a negative way. Not us as Canadian Arabs, but as stories of violence and conflict coming from the Middle East and North Africa. And this has been going on for decades. And it's worse today than it's ever been. The conflicts in Syria, Iraq, Libya, Yemen, and the events sort of post the Arab Spring and what happened in Egypt and Bahrain. So these are not good news stories. The Arab Spring itself was very, very good news story. It didn't last for too long. And, you know, ISIS and Al-Qaeda and those kinds of extremist groups who tend to do their acts in the name of Islam or in the name of Arabs, do a lot of damage to how people see us. So, you know, how do you fix that? It's a shared responsibility. We as a community have the responsibility to be to raise our profile, to become visible, to show our contributions to this country, to demonstrate how we are good citizens, to be active as citizens in this country, not stay at home and turn inwards and pretend that no one sees us, because we are there. And if we are not seen, if we are not visible as a community with our own profile, then we have to wear the image that comes from overseas and from ISIS and these guys. So the more we keep a low key, the more we are exposed to that image, and Canadians will see us through that lens as opposed to through who we really are. Of course, the other side of it is that Canadian institutions need to be fair in their portrayal and are able to again, you know, look at us as citizens, as a normal contributing part of society, rather than as imports who don't belong here or can't fit in with which some people in the media have done before.
To what extent, given that we want to keep our heritage, to what extent does a Canadian Arab have to hold on to their culture living in Canada? Like where's the line between you're holding too much onto your culture and then as opposed to you're completely assimilating to a different culture that you don't necessarily belong to?
Well, I happen to believe in and actually be proud of and enjoy something called the Canadian Arab culture. and this is a fusion of a culture that combines both my heritage as an Arab, the things that I love and I'm proud of as an Arab, with the things I have become as a Canadian, and you know, we are in a position to make the best of both worlds and choose the best of both cultures, the way they work for us. And I don't see a contradiction between the two whatsoever. In fact, I've become so much a Canadian Arab that I feel a sense of belonging with other Canadian Arabs that I don't feel with any other kind of Arab. And when I go back to the Middle East, sure, there's a connection, but my belonging has become a lot more to my identity here as a Canadian Arab than it is as an Arab, period.
All right, so given all that, how do we avoid having the new generations that are born and raised here to lose their Arabic heritage?
Well, I mean, that's a very important factor. And you know, I've had parents come to me, who grew up here themselves, and say, you know, I don't want my children to grow up hiding their culture and their heritage from their friends because they're ashamed or they're afraid how they will be treated. I want them to be proud. And that's a very important sentiment that we cannot ignore. And it's if there's no other reason to be active Canadian Arab citizens, then this is one. Because you know, it's a tragedy if our children have to grow up hiding their identity, because they really cannot be fully contributing members of society when they're trying to hide part of who they are. Their best performance, their best contribution will be in them being comfortable in their identity and expressing it and using their identity, which includes their culture, as a means of expression of who they are with pride. And you know, anything else would restrict part of their creativity, would restrict part of their ability to express themselves and be fully contributing members of society. So and the way to do that is not to hide their culture from them, rather, but to tell them, to teach them, to educate them about the beautiful things in their culture. And there's lots of that. You know, we have a lot in our literature, we have a lot in our history, in our scientific discoveries, in our hospitality and generosity as a people, and our affection towards others and family, and there's a lot to be proud of. And certainly, you know, learning the language is one way to connect children with their culture, so that they're better able to appreciate the literature that was written over the ages, and connect with the culture in its own language, especially, you know, in modern day connectivity. One can be very well connected to the region through the internet and so on, and knowing the language certainly goes a long way in doing that. And you know, when I met recently here in Calgary a number of people who were born here and spoke Arabic very well, and I was really very impressed and happy for them, because they are at once both Arab and Canadian, and comfortable in both, and active as Canadian Arab citizens in society, and that's really the healthy formula.
I have to agree. Okay, in your opinion, what do you think we need to do for artistic talent development? Because especially in Calgary, I don't know about the eastern side of Canada, but especially in Calgary, there seems to be a lack in artistic showcasing events. What do you think we need to do to emphasize that we have an art and we can make it and it's beautiful?
Well, I mean, certainly a smaller community does limit your ability to create your own artistic expression in a big or significant way. it certainly would not prevent it. And it may even open room for creativity and engaging in a multicultural artistic expression, as opposed to purely an Arab or Arab Canadian one. And we've seen that. We've seen a number of Arab artists who have engage in artistic expression with members of other ethnic groups, creating a very unique Canadian multicultural artistic expression, which in part is Arab, and I think for smaller communities, that's certainly one way to go. Probably the largest or the biggest artistic expression of the Arab community in the country happens in Montreal, because of its not only high number of Arabs but high concentration of Arabs in the city, and we've seen that they have formed orchestras, they have formed theater groups and the like. Certainly, there's something to a critical mass that allows a more a larger ability in cultural expression. But you can be a sole artist, and you don't really have to be dependent on others so much. And I found out over the last couple of years that there are 3 opera singers, 2 sopranos and 1 mezzo-soprano, who are of Arab origin, by circumstance, all from Ottawa. 2 of them are now in Toronto, and 1 is still in Ottawa. All 3 of them are very well respected and professional singers, performers. All 3 of them, connected to their heritage. 2 of them participated with us in a concert last year in Toronto that showcased Canadian Arab artistic expression, that it included Arabic and English and opera and so on. I think there's room. There's even more room, I would say, here for artistic success, even as an Arab, than there is in back home, because there's a true market here, and there's a bigger market. There's a protected market, copyright protections and so on, and you actually have a better chance to make a living as an artist here than you do in elsewhere.
That's a good point. Okay, tell me, that's our final question. What do you think of the festival so far? What are you waiting to see come out of this festival?
Film festivals are a very efficient way of showcasing a culture, of creating cultural understanding, because they come in a box, and you all have to do is you open that box, and a part of a culture is expressed in that box. You don't have to do much yourself in terms of production. You don't have to invest in except in organizing a film festival, and it is an amazing way to connect not only Canadians to the Arab culture, but more so second generation Canadian Arabs who feel distant and need to better understand that culture. There's a lot of beautiful film productions coming out of the Arab world. There's a lot of history of film production coming out of the Arab world, and certainly film can provide a sort of a very quick and efficient access to a culture, at least part of a culture, to help you understand how people think and behave and why. I really I commend the organizers of the Calgary Arab Film Festival for doing this, and I hope it continues to grow and prosper. Last night I was at the screening of Incendie, which is about civil war, and it's a very very sad story. In fact, it is even disturbing, but it really talks about how civil war can tear apart a society, and it really, I could tell in the discussion afterwards, and I was sitting on the panel afterwards, and the kinds of questions people were asking, it really provoked a lot of questions in people's minds, and wanting to learn about the Lebanese experience in that film. This is a fantastic idea. In Toronto, there's the Toronto Palestine Film Festival that has been going on now for, I think, about 12 years, and it's growing every year. Recently, a Syrian film festival was started, also because people in the Syrian community wanted other Canadians and other Arabs to learn about Syria and the Syrian society outside of the conflict that's taking place today, and film can do that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate
You're welcome.
the conversation.
Pleasure to be here.
And any final thoughts to Calgarian Arabs? Any messages you want to?
You know what? My message to the community is always to get engaged. Do not hide. Do not put your head in the sand. Get engaged in society in every level. It's the best way to find yourself as a Canadian citizen and be proud of your achievements and contributions to the country, and find a place for your heritage as well to be with you. And to their credit, most Canadian institutions are very open to our participation, welcome our participation. In fact, we've often heard from other Canadians telling us, it's great that the Canadian Arab Institute is doing this. What took you so long? You should have been started doing this a long time ago. So better late than never, but we are doing this now, and we welcome all support, any participation from the community in the work that we do. Our website is CanadianArabInstitute.org, and we have an open door policy. We reach out to everyone, and we'd like everyone to reach out to us, so please do. We will always, we've become very good at putting good talent to good use, and we'd love to include other people.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. ده كان حواري مع السيد رجا خوري. تشرفت بالكلام معاه. لو عندكم تعليقات أحب أسمعها على Calgary Arabia على الفيسبوك أو على تويتر @Calgary Arabia. لو في أو noha@redfm.ca. لو في أي حد تحبوا نكلمه لو سمحتوا قولولي عشان أعرف أوصل لهم. لما يبقى عندكم أفكار عرفوني بحيث إن احنا نتكلم معاهم وما إلى ذلك. طيب تعالوا دلوقتي نسمع الشاب مامي. ما عندي والي ونرجع تاني.